Welcome to Noxel. This channel focuses on scary stories, unresolved mysteries, and documentary-style explorations of the unknown. If that's something you're interested in, consider subscribing. Now, let's begin. The Monitor. Before I tell you this story, I need you to understand something. I'm a nurse. I work nights. I deal with emergencies. I stay calm under pressure, and I don't scare easily. But what happened to me 4 weeks ago has changed everything I thought I knew about reality. This all started on a night shift like any other. It was just after 3 a.m. when my son's baby monitor app buzzed on my phone. Sound and movement detected. No big deal, right? He's 3 years old now, sleeps through most nights. Probably just coughed or had a bad dream. I pulled up the app on my phone during my break, and there they were. My wife and my son sitting together on his bed. Still not weird. He gets scared sometimes, crawls into bed with mom. Totally normal. Except they weren't acting normal. They were both staring directly up at the camera, completely still. Blank, emotionless faces. The night vision gave them these eerie white eyes. They weren't moving at all except for their breathing, just sitting there, staring. I closed the app. Something felt off, so I decided to call my wife, make sure everything was okay. We never usually talk during my shifts, so in a way, it was kind of nice. She answered after a couple rings with this super groggy, "Hello?" like I'd just woken her from a dead sleep. But I'd literally just seen her wide awake on the camera. "Hey, you guys okay?" I asked. "Huh? Yeah, Buddy came in like 15 minutes ago. Seemed scared, so I said he could sleep with Mama." I was confused. I'd just seen them in his room a minute ago. Literally 60 seconds had passed. "Wait, so you guys are in bed? In our bed?" "Yeah, I fell back asleep right away. Everything okay? Everybody keeps waking me up." She was getting annoyed. "Hang on a sec." I put her on speaker and opened the app again. My stomach dropped. That feeling you get when you're a kid and you suddenly remember you forgot to do your homework. That sick, nervous panic. They were still there, still sitting on his bed, still staring at the camera with those blank expressions. "Hello?" she said through the phone. "You guys are in bed, right? Your bed?" "Yeah, we're trying to sleep." "Well, I'm looking at his camera right now, and I see you two sitting on his bed." "Huh? No, we're in our bed." "I know that's what you're saying, but I'm looking at the monitor and you're both sitting in his room." "Hang on." I heard her moving around, pulling up the app on her phone. Then I heard it. This guttural, terrified gasp, like she'd sucked all the air in the room into her lungs. I don't hear my wife make sounds like that often, only when she's truly afraid. Jump scares in movies, or that time our son ran toward the road when we turned our backs for 1 second. I heard rustling sheets. Then the line went dead. I immediately called back. Voicemail. I called again, and again, and again. 4 minutes of calling before she finally rang me back. That 4 minutes felt like 40 years. "Hey, what's happening?" I practically shouted. She was hysterical, crying. I couldn't understand a single word. "Stop, slow down for just a second." She managed to tell me they were in the car, driving to her parents' house. She'd looked at the camera, saw what was on it, grabbed our son and ran. Didn't even close the garage door. "Don't worry about it," I said. "I'll drive by when I get off and close it." "You will not go in there," she said. "Hell no," I agreed. "Why are we on the camera?" she asked. "Is it a recording?" "I don't know. I'm going to keep watching it. Do our code words with Buddy." Okay, so this is going to sound weird, but my wife and I are nerds. We've seen too many horror movies about pod people and body snatchers. Years ago, we made up code words and code phrases as a joke, ways to verify we were really ourselves. We taught them to our son as a game. I never imagined we'd actually need them. I heard her going through the phrases with our son. He giggled like he always does. He thinks it's just a silly game. She did our codes too. I was convinced. They were really them. She made it to her parents' house safely. Before we hung up, she told me something that made my blood run cold. When she was running out of the house, she had to pass by our son's room. The door was open. There's a little LED light on the back of the camera that shows it's connected to the internet. In that faint light, out of the corner of her eye, she thought she saw the shadowy outline of an adult sitting on our son's bed. Knowing they were safe was the only thing that kept me at work that night. The longest 4 hours of my life. I kept checking the camera every chance I got. They were still there, still sitting, still staring. Those emotionless gazes locked on the camera. I started studying them, looking for patterns. Their breathing looked normal and steady, but it was their blinking that would tell me if this was some kind of bizarre looped video. I counted the seconds between each blink. There was no pattern. It was random and erratic, exactly like real people blinking. Then I noticed something else. My son's window is visible in the frame. Over the hours, I could see it getting lighter outside. The curtains blocked enough light to keep the camera in night vision mode, but I could tell the sun was rising. This wasn't a recording. This was live. I didn't know what to do. Call the police? And say what? Someone's in my house that looks like my wife but isn't? What if these things killed the cops? I ended up telling a coworker about it. He's really into paranormal stuff. I showed him the video and told him everything. His first response was, "That's creepy as fuck," which didn't help much. But then he said he wanted to go check it out, see if these things would try to act like my family. I told him absolutely not. He said we should at least go to the house, even if we didn't go inside. I agreed. I needed to close the garage anyway. We got to my house and walked around the perimeter first. Not sure why, it just felt like something we should do. All the curtains were drawn, so we couldn't see anything. I went to close the garage door, and suddenly I had this overwhelming urge to go inside. Like, I just had to know what was happening. So we went in. We walked through the kitchen toward the foyer where the stairs are. The house was so quiet, you could hear a feather drop. We stopped at the bottom of the stairs. I checked the camera again, still sitting there. My coworker put his foot on the first step. "Stop," I said loudly. "Forget this. We're out of here. Come on." Then we heard it. A loud creak from upstairs. My son's room. There's a creaky floorboard right in the middle of his room that's almost impossible not to step on. We've been meaning to fix it, but also kind of want to keep it for when he's a teenager trying to sneak around. "Come on, come on, come on," I yelled, motioning for him to move. We were out of the house in seconds. Out on the street, I checked my phone. Now, only the thing that looked like my son was sitting on the bed. Same blank stare. The thing that looked like my wife was gone. "Holy shit," my coworker said. "That was stupid as fuck. Do not tell my wife we went inside. She would have killed me if she found out." I used my garage door opener to close the door. Before we left, I checked the camera one more time. The wife thing was back on the bed, both of them sitting there, staring, blinking every few seconds. That was 4 days ago when I first posted about this online, but now I need to tell you what happened next. I'm sorry it's taken so long. I've been in the hospital for 3 weeks. By day 6, these things were still sitting on that bed, still staring at the camera. We'd been staying at my in-laws' house. My wife and I argued about what to do. Her parents said, "Call a priest." I said, "We're calling the cops." I told the dispatcher there were intruders in my house, left out the part where they looked exactly like my family. I said we were out of the house, but I'd meet the police there. She dispatched 2 units. My wife begged me not to go. I told her I had a plan. I'd FaceTime her on her mom's iPhone while showing the police the monitor on my phone. They'd see this was a messed up situation and proceed with caution. My coworker friend said he'd come with me. We beat the cops to my house. And yeah, I was armed. I have a concealed carry permit, so I had my 1911.45 on me. What I didn't tell the cops was that I also had my father-in-law's AR-15 in my trunk. I wasn't planning on needing it. The police would come armed and prepared. When they arrived, I informed them I was carrying and then explained everything. They looked at each other like I was insane. I FaceTimed my wife so they could see she was definitely not in the house, despite what the camera showed. This got their attention. I hung up with my wife and told her I'd call as soon as we knew something. "So we're sure this isn't a recording?" one officer said. "It's not. The day-night cycle has changed every day. Their blinking is random, not looped." "I know it's a stupid question, but your wife isn't a twin?" the other officer asked. My friend spoke up. "I have an idea. Turn the volume up. I'll throw a pebble at the window." He went around back while I turned the volume to max. "Okay, I'm tossing." We heard the light tick sound from outside. Then the 1-second camera delay came through my phone, loud and clear. The wife thing moved for the first time. She turned her head slightly toward the window, then back to the camera. "Okay, so this is live," an officer said. "Sir, I need you and your friend to stay outside. We're going in to find out what's going on." "Should you call for more units?" I asked hopefully. "Not at this time. We'll assess the situation first. They don't appear to be armed, but we'll be cautious." I opened the garage for them. They radioed dispatch that they were going in. They disappeared into my house. A few seconds later, the camera went out. I wanted to vomit. My heart was in my throat. "Shit!" I yelled. I immediately popped the trunk, grabbed the rifle, and ran into the garage. My friend was right behind me. We got inside just in time to hear a low, guttural howl from upstairs. Almost demonic. Raised voices from the police. Then, several shots.
"Need backup. Shots fire."
He was cut off. "Oh my God!" my friend screamed.
"God fucking damn it, I knew it!"
I said, running up the stairs. My son's room is the first one after the stairs. As I reached the top, I opened fire on the wall. The AR has a 30-round magazine, but I felt like I fired 100 shots. I fired everywhere, knowing the rounds would go through the drywall like paper. Concentrating on where the bed would be, but also near the door and toward the floor, in case these things tried to duck. We heard shrieks of pain coming from the room. Then nothing. My friend and I paused. The camera was still out. We heard whimpering. There was a dead cop in the hallway. We had to step over him. It was awful. Something I'll never unsee. His head was several feet from his body, in the threshold of the guest room. We found the other cop in my son's room, just inside the doorway. He had several large holes in his torso, like he'd been impaled. The whimpering was coming from the thing that looked like my wife. She was on her back on the floor, holding her bullet-riddled torso, breathing heavy. The scene was awful. I can't put into words how awful it was. I knew they weren't my family. I knew that, but I fell to my knees anyway. "I don't want to die, honey," it whimpered. "I wanted to have more kids. I can't die now." I looked over at the thing that looked like my son. It had to be dead. At least 2 shots to the head, several more in the torso, a couple in the legs and arms. If you have kids, you understand. Seeing what looks like their lifeless, bullet-riddled body is a special kind of hell. I knew it wasn't my son, but it looked exactly like him. I was going to be sick. I'd killed my family. I turned back to the wife thing. It was acting exactly like my wife, even mimicking her anxiety about death that she's had this past year. "It's not her, man," my friend said. I'd forgotten he was there. "It's not her. Shoot it." I know what you're thinking. How many times have we seen this in movies? You scream at the TV for the character to just shoot the imposter. But I guess movies get it right somehow. I'll never roll my eyes at that scene again. "Please don't shoot me," it begged. My hands were shaking. Why couldn't I do it? I knew this wasn't my wife. "Listen, man," my friend said calmly. "Look at it. Its blood is yellow. It's not your family. Was it yellow? I looked closer. It was. I'd been so traumatized by seeing my family slain that I hadn't even noticed their blood wasn't red. I steadied my aim. The wife thing suddenly stopped begging. It began that guttural, terrifying shriek, and something black or gray started protruding from its mouth, like a tentacle. I fired. At that range, its head basically exploded. I was still on my knees. My friend was in the hallway. We heard police sirens approaching. One of the cops had gotten a shots fired call over the radio before being killed. It seemed like hours, but it had only been about 5 minutes. My friend went downstairs to explain to the police what to expect. I stood up slowly and started toward the hallway. I was lightheaded. My bedroom is right next to my son's room. The doorway is about a foot to the right. My door was closed. As I stepped into the hallway, my door opened. I walked out, wearing exactly the same clothes I was wearing. I was shocked in place, couldn't move, but it could. It walked toward me, and its right arm turned black and morphed into a tentacle, wiggling like a squid or octopus appendage. When it thrust its arm at me, the tentacle solidified and impaled me through the abdomen. Then it stabbed me in the left leg, just above the kneecap. I fell to the ground in pain. The tentacle was wiggling again. "Why did you kill my family?" it asked. When it spoke, its voice changed pitch several times. My voice, then much deeper, then normal again, alternating. The rifle was gone, but I still had my .45. I pulled it out and fired into its right knee. It howled. As it fell, I fired 2 more shots into its abdomen and ribs. It breathed heavily for a few seconds before I used the last of my strength to aim and shoot it in the face. Its blood was also yellow. I lay there bleeding out, thinking this was it. I still had adrenaline pumping, so I took my belt off and tried to make a tourniquet for my leg. With my stomach wound, it was hard to tighten it properly. I took my shirt off, balled it up, and packed my stomach wound, applying as much pressure as I could. Being a nurse probably saved my life. I passed out, but the measures I took kept me alive long enough for EMS to arrive. I heard raised voices and pounding on the stairs before I went out. Probably a cop trying to keep my wound packed. I was in and out of consciousness as EMS and what seemed like every cop in the city arrived. While I was being loaded onto a gurney upstairs, I heard cops freaking out. They'd lost 2 brothers, and there were 3 other bodies. Did he kill his brother? Are they twins? Probably referring to the thing that looked like me. Or his whole family? Put him on armed guard at the hospital. He'll probably be getting charged. As I was loaded into the ambulance, I saw my friend talking to a group of about 10 cops. They were listening very intently. I went out again in the ambulance. I woke up in the ER. My wounds had been treated. The tentacle had been a few inches wide, slightly larger than a big knife. They'd sewn me up. I was getting a blood transfusion due to blood loss. My wife had authorized whatever treatment I needed while I was unconscious. She was also extremely pissed that I went in the house. We're okay now, but that's a whole other story. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. I ended up getting an infection and almost went septic. Needed heavy antibiotics. The whole time, cops were in my room asking questions. After about a week, they released me and removed the armed guard. I told them everything. Didn't care if it sounded crazy. Thank God my friend had come with me to corroborate the story. Midway through my hospital stay, men in suits came to visit. Government types. They said they were FBI, but I don't know if I believe that. They wanted to talk about the things that looked like my family. The police chief and coroner were involved. Very hush-hush. They made it clear this was not to get out to the public. This is where I have to apologize for an anticlimactic ending. I don't know what those things were. Neither do they. The only thing we know is they were sentient creatures that looked like us and had yellow blood. I begged the coroner to tell me about the autopsies, but he said he wasn't allowed. He must have felt bad for me, though. A couple days later, I received a bouquet of flowers. The card inside read, "We don't know what they are. They have the same organs we do, but in different parts of their body except for the brain. What's red and pink inside us is green and yellow inside them. They're humanoid creatures, but whatever they aren't human. The government thinks they may be extraterrestrial. Destroy this letter, ASAP." We had our house professionally cleaned. Almost certainly a government team, since they contacted us on behalf of the police. We couldn't find any Google reviews or website for the company. My wife and I aren't going back to that house. We'd love to burn it down, but there's no way to do that without arousing suspicion of arson. We're going to take a huge loss on the property. Everyone in our neighborhood knows there was an incident involving multiple deaths, but they don't know what actually happened. It'll be hard to sell, but eventually it will. We're moving on. I told everyone at work it was a home invasion. They bought it. I'll go back to work in a couple weeks and we'll start looking for a new house. I'm sorry. I know everyone wants a concrete ending and to know exactly what those things were, but we just don't know. Aliens sounds good to me. I've been thinking if they were supernatural or actual demons, gunfire wouldn't have been able to kill them. But if they were aliens, why did they just sit there for a week? They didn't even try to take over our lives. It's hard to wrap my head around. If they were aliens, keep your eyes peeled. There could be more of them out there.